Rather than attacking the information and defending yourself, you just attack the person who brings you the information. That's a tactic that's been used for a long period of time. So certainly there's elements of fear, but it's not nearly as dangerous to your livelihood or your career as it was then.
So the movie, in a certain sense, is dedicated to your father?
Oh, certainly. Yeah, it is, with no exception. He's the first person I showed the film to. And it's because this is what he taught me about broadcast journalism, too. I grew up working in newsrooms as a little kid and running around in newsrooms. And he wrote his own news. There was an old school belief, it was local news, that you had a responsibility to question authority constantly, always, and never be satisfied. That he started to see that go away in the mid-'80s, and he thought that's been sort of the trend for a lot of news lately.
Reading the story of Good Night and Good Luck, that obviously I haven't seen yet, I was thinking to the famous line of the movie with Humphrey Bogart, that line USA, it's the press, baby, and there is nothing you can do about this.
Right.
Do you still believe in the power of free journalism who can change history?
Yes, and I think without it, we're dead. I think that Thomas Jefferson was the one who was, for us, he was the author of our Constitution, the author of the Declaration of Independence, and probably the brightest. We were very lucky that we had Thomas Jefferson to start with, And one of the main portions of his belief was that without freedom of press, you might as well not have government. And he said, given the opportunity or the option of a free press, or a free government, only one of the two, he would take a free press. We can't survive without it. The problem is always that there's a responsibility to that free press to give information. In America, and I don't know about Italy, I don't know about Europe as much, but in America, most of our news comes from television. Almost all of it. Most people get their news from TV. So there's the danger of, if you don't start with a good, solid group of facts. When we were young, there were 3 networks. They all started with the same facts. You got your facts, and then you went off and you had your own social or political views that you would filter those facts through. Now, with 50 different news channels, with their own sort of opinionated version of their own facts, depending on if you're a liberal or if you're a conservative or whatever, you watch the channel that best suits you. So you start with a different set of facts from the very beginning. So if you watch Fox News, for instance, from the very beginning in America, there was never any question that there were weapons of mass destruction, that there was yellow cake uranium in Niger, that Saddam Hussein was attached to Al-Qaeda, that he was attached to 911. There's no question about it. It was fact. If you watched CNN, they'd ask, maybe there aren't, maybe it's not true. And you would then, so the problem is there's no sort of, we're not starting with the same fact base now. And that's, fractionalizing that can be dangerous at times, I think.
Which style did you choose for your movie? Is Good Night and Good Luck similar, for instance, to All the President's Men and other famous...
There were scenes I took from All the President's Men. What I loved the most about All the President's Men was the scenes when they were putting together the newspaper, when they were going through the newsroom. I remember that with my father, how they would go through news and go, okay, what do you have for the front page? Okay, no, that's not front page. And my dad used to do that for the broadcast. So we gave all the kids, all the guys in the newsroom, information, newspapers of the day, talking points, gave them stacks and stacks of research that they worked on. And then in the morning we'd come in with 2 cameras, and I'd sit down as Fred Friendly, and I'd go, okay, let's go. What do you got? And they go, well, we got McCarthy did this, or Oppenheimer's trying to do, and they would bounce it all back and forth, and we'd write out and say, okay, that's not a news show. And then we edit it together, and it looks like a newsroom piece. It looks like a Pennebaker documentary. It looks really, I'm mostly proud of that, I think.
Why did you choose not to be the Mr. Mauro, but not to portray Mauro, but his producer?
Well, it's funny. When I first started writing it, I sort of wrote it with thinking I'd play Murrow. And then, as I started to do more and more research about Murrow and learned more about him and watched him on camera, you always felt like Murrow had the weight of the world on his shoulders. Whenever you see him talking, he just felt like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. And it's something you can't act. It's just a personality trait. You know, either you have it or you don't. And I don't really have that quality. That's not what people think of when they think of me, you know. So I started looking around to find someone who looked like Edward R. Murrow and who who always felt like they had a very, you know, they're sad. There's a sadness to them, which isn't what's normally associated with me. And David was the perfect guy. And I called him up and said, do you want to do it? And he said yes. And I didn't know whether he could do it or not until the day before we started shooting. Nerve-wracking. But I thought, I knew I have to play a part in it to get the money, to get the film made. So I thought Fred Friendly was a part I could play. It's also no fun directing yourself. It's not fun, you know. It's more fun to be able to step back and go,